Good afternoon, ladies and Will. What we're looking at here is problem 12 from 5th period, and we had a student solve this triangle. And when she solved using law of cosines, she was okay, and so that's actually going to be angle C, right?
Yes.
Based on that, so no problem with this. But we ran into a problem here because the next thing she did was solve for B by taking the inverse sine of this relation here. And Kaylee, thank you Kaylee, pointed out that this is going to be a reference angle. And so B is really going to be 180 degrees minus 18.82, right? And so, but there's no way of knowing that. So this is yet another example of what angle should we do first using law of cosines. The largest. And if you do the largest first, you're not going to run into these problems.
You mean the smallest?
Yeah, I thought you did the smallest first.
Well, no, for law of cosines, you do the biggest. She actually did the smallest first here with law of cosines. When you go to law of sines, that's when you want to do your smallest that's left. So she's going to do this. So you're going to do law, so the formula is do your law of cosines with the biggest one, and then law of sines to do your smallest one to get this. And so the order can make a difference depending on what it is. So I want to give Kaylee some credit for that. So you're solving this, right?
I'm going to have 18 myself in my first.
When you solve it first, it's that number, but then you take 180 to subtract that number. And that's what
And what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually
because that's the
I'm actually going to clone this.
over 90.
I'm actually going to clone this and show that it
I don't
tomorrow.
understand.
You don't understand?
No,
You don't understand the ambiguous case of law of sines? Is that it?
apparently not.
Did you change the letters?
No, I didn't. I didn't.
Like, could you do that?
You could, yes. You could do that.
Not make it look confusing.
Yeah, whatever that is.
So is that the right answer?
No, this answer here is correct, but then these other ones are not correct. And Kaylee pointed out that the real answer for B is going to be 180 minus 18.82, which is going to be 161.18, right?
Why do you do that?
Why that?
Yeah.
Well, let me show you this. The sine of 161. So sine of 161.18 is going to be this, right? I'm in radians. Let me get into degrees again. I got into degrees to, yeah, let me get down to degrees. Let's try again. So sine 161.18, we get this. And let's go ahead and look at the reference angle. This is what Kaylee pointed out to me. It's going to be sine 18.82. Same thing. Why is that? How is that possible? Is that your question? How is that possible? Okay, it's possible because of this. When you have an angle, and here we have sine and cosine, so x and y, and your sine is what? Your y or your x? Your y. So here we have 18.82 degrees, right? Here's 18.82, and this is what Jane had calculated the sine using the inverse sine. But it so happens that the sine of 18.82 degrees is the same as the sine of 161.18 degrees. And so when you take the inverse sine, you're always going to be given a possibility between negative 90 degrees to positive 90 degrees. And for the purposes of working on triangles, you're going to get between 0 and 90 degrees. And so the calculator only knew to give us an inverse sine of 18.82. They
But how do you
didn't.
know when to subtract it from the 180? Because on the other problems, we never did that.
Yeah, we never did it. But if you do things in the right order, you don't have to worry about that.
All of your angles don't measure up to the 180 degrees. Like one of them used to be 30.
Yeah. But
The inverse not add up to 180.
But if you end up by subtracting, doing your last one by subtracting, you're going to, by definition, get to 180. So what I'm going to do is, with this one, because it's really a good example, I'm going to go ahead and clone this one. And call on somebody to work this one out. And then it creates a...
First, do equal to 180 though. If you add up,
Because, okay, so if you do multiply and divide of
Yeah,
18.82 sine
yeah,
that number times
she's explaining it.
9.8 divided by 12, then
Okay.
that number will not.
The reason they add up to 180 is because she got this last angle by subtracting these two from 180. So that's how she got this angle here. So that's why they all add up to 180, because she just subtracted from 180 to get this.
But if she actually worked it out, it wouldn't have added up to.
But if she actually worked them all out, then she wouldn't have added up to 180
so what you
exactly.
get for 850.
15.
Yeah.
So why can't you solve for that?
You can.
Like you said, you solved for the bigger one first. But I thought you solved for the little one.
Okay.
Because that's why I solved and I got the 15 and then.
Okay, I think you're misunderstanding what I said. That's fine. When you're using the law of cosines, solve for the biggest one first.
But I was using sine to solve.
But if you have to use law of sines, solve for the smallest one. And the reason the biggest one first is when you come back here, law of cosines is going to be correct all the way from 0 to 180 degrees. And after you solve for that using law of cosines, the biggest one, you know that the next ones you solve for are going to be, well, in this case, you get a real big angle for B, don't you? Right? You get 161.84 degrees. And so the problem is if you consider a reference angle, the other one is a reference angle, it could have more than one possible angle that produces that sine value. So that's where you get into trouble. So if you do things in the right order, you're going to be in good shape. Okay, number 12, we have okay, I didn't, Kayla, she's not here today. We're going to have, for this one here, 12 Carmen. Okay, Carmen, how'd you do this one? Did you solve for B first? What did you do? So that little c there, You got 3.40. Okay, well, I recommended solving for B first. Who solved for B first? Anybody? Using law of cosines?
We all solve for C, A, and B.
And you got it right that way?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that could work out because you're going to get less than 90 degrees, so it's not a problem. So go ahead, did you solve for, go ahead, Carmen, then you tell me what you did on this. I recommend the future in law of cosines, if you're just given sides, solve for the biggest first. Show me what you did, Carmen, that's fine.
Inverse cosine.
So C equals inverse cosine of 2.3 squared, 9.8 squared. Okay, so C is going to be equal to 3.545 degrees. Okay, and then using law of sines, you took the next biggest angle. Is that what you did? Okay, so that was going to be A. So A is going to be equal to inverse sine of 9.8, and it's going to be sine of that, right? Over over 2.3. And so you got for that one, so big A is equal to 15 point 15 point something. Should get, let's get some decimal places out of this deal. 15 point 275 degrees. And then so you have angle C, angle A, and then angle B is going to be 180 minus these, right? So what did you get for angle B? 161.182. Okay, so that's it. Now in this case you were saved from that because even though you solved for the smallest one first, then when you used law of sines, you went to the smallest next one, and you were still okay. Okay, thank you, Carmen. Okay. Okay, how are you doing on number 13? It's easy? Okay. So let's get some more. 13, we got looks like Will, I have you down for 13. Okay, 13. What did you get for 13? Well,
I'm not sure.
you're not sure?
Doesn't know how to solve it.
Okay. Well, you got, to me, you got a known side opposite a known angle. So that's going to be sine B over B is equal to sine A over A, which is 7. Let me do it with the eraser. 7. So B is equal to inverse sine of 10 sine 42 degrees over 7. So B, angle B is equal to 72.921 degrees, okay? So now you have angle B, what's your next stratagem going to be? So angle
C
C,
is 65.07.
65.07?
Or
07,
actually 08 if you remember.
08, okay, degrees. Okay, so that's angle C, and next thing we need to do is find side C, which is little c over sine of 65.08 degrees equals 7 over sine 42 degrees. So little c is going to be equal to
Inverse sine.
So sine, well, you don't actually have to do inverse sine, do you? That's not inverse sine. Right? That's not an inverse sine. You're not trying to find inverse sine. So you have 7 sine. Those guys are loud next door today. So what's little c here?
Little c is 9.4.
9.4?
Or 9.4.
9.49? Okay. So we got big C, big B, big C, and little c done. Okay? What I want you to do is 14. I'll call on somebody for 14.
Should I do it ahead of time? I haven't worked a problem in 7 years.
You haven't? Okay, let me see here what we are. Let me see what the, yeah, so Hannah, you are on the list, so I'll go ahead. So I got, so you'll do 14? Okay, then we just have Kaylee and Emma doing 15 and 16, right? Okay. Go ahead, Hannah, what do you got?
So I found big B.
So big B,
I did 10 sine 57 divided by 11.
so you got, is that inverse sine of that?
And then the inverse side of that, and I got 49.679.
29.679?
No, 49.
49.679. Okay, and that's going to be degrees, right?
Yes, degrees.
All right, go ahead.
And then I found big C next, and I just added 49 plus 57, and then I subtracted it from 180.
Minus 57 minus 46.679. So you got big angle C is equal to, what was that?
73.321.
Degrees, right?
Degrees, yes. And then I found little c, and I did 11 sine 53.321 divided by sine 57.
Sine 57 degrees, okay.
And then I got 12.564.
12.564.
Yes.
So little c is that. Okay, so little c, big B, all solved for. Okay. So I just have two left. I got Emma and Kaylee on this. So who wants to do 15? Did you do 15 yet? Unsolvable. So you want to do that one? There you go, says it's all.
Every time I put in the calculator, it's okay.
Okay, what I want to do is, Emma came up with, on number 15, is unsolvable. And what I want to do is just talk about why this one is unsolvable. Does anybody have an idea why?
It's over 60 degrees.
Okay, Will says because it's over 60 degrees. I don't know if you put under 60 degrees it would work or not. You could try to tweak it. Like if you tried 59 degrees, would it work? I don't know. But I do want to show you one thing. I want to show you why. So we have is, if we have A over sine of 63 degrees, is going to be equal to, well, A is this. I want to write it differently. I want to write B, or sine B, over 11.1 is equal to sine 63 degrees over 8.6. And so what is B going to be equal to? Inverse sine of 11 sine 63 degrees over 8.6. So let's look in the calculator at what that is. And we have 11 sine 63 degrees. Is that what that was? Over 8.6. So we get this, and I get 1.39, 11.1, right? Should be 11.1. So let me do that again. I want to get the exact right number. Excuse me.
That's you.
11.1 sine. For any viewers in the audience, no, I don't have COVID. I had it 2 months ago. All right. So we get 1.15. Okay, so that is the number we're taking the inverse sine of. What's wrong with that?
It's greater than 1.
It's greater than 1, right? And let's look at that. So I appreciate that Hannah said that, and she wasn't the only one. But if we go here to the calculator and we graph sine x, and to see it right, I'm going to go ahead and change this thing back to radians, because we'll be able to see the radian. And we graph, what do we see? What's the maximum value of sine? 1. So in answer to Will's question, if you could use 59 degrees, what you have to do is find if you set a value here, if you say, okay, we know that 11 sine x over 8.6 would have to be, we need that to be greater than, we need that to be less than or equal to 1, right? less than or equal to 1. So if we solve this inequality, so if we have,
That's greater than or equal
wait a second, I think you're right.
to.
We need it to be less than, yeah, let me go ahead and write it this way so I can understand it better. Need this to be less than or equal to 1. How's that? Does that look better? Yeah, good catch. And so what we need to do is, we have to go ahead and take sine x is going to be less than or equal to 8.6 over 11. 8.6 over 11. So if we find the inverse sine of this, inverse sine of 8.6 over 11, that'll be it. Again, back to degrees. Ooh, format. Mode, yeah. Inverse sine. So inverse sine of 8.6 over 11, that's going to be our maximum angle we can have. So it has to be smaller than that angle for that to work out with the value. So that's a good, so I appreciate that. We are really out of time today.
Can you turn these in?
Yeah, you can turn this in. Did you get your answer for that, Kaylee? You did 16? You got your answer? Okay, I'll give you credit because you did Jansen. Well, okay, good job, class. We'll just leave it there today.